I'll just introduce myself. I'm Lucas Ramada Prieto. I'm a PhD candidate and researcher from the University Autonomous of Barcelona, UAB. And I've been part of this 4-year R&D project that involved electronic literature for children, but also literary education. So I came from the Faculty of Education of my university. It's not literary studies, it's the Faculty of Education. So what I will present today is this digital migration thing, and what is this all about? Well, this is a tiny descriptive study, always from a qualitative perspective, that seeks to compare paper and digital literary reading profiles. And I guess that you'll be asking, oh, well, is this even important anymore? I mean, comparing paper and digital, isn't that what we've been doing for the last 10 years? But I think it is important. And it is important because what I've called the vernacular and educational crossroad, meaning that while at home, there's been like a total colonization of private life by digital forms of culture. And I've used this GIF to illustrate it, that has this feeling of a cozy environment of playing Super Mario, and the kid looks totally fine with it. But this is opposite to what the institution is, at least in Spain, it's feeling with it. I mean, our kids are receiving an extremely analog education, especially when dealing with literature, and this illustrates it in the perfect way. I mean, this poor old lady just watching VR for the first time in her life, she's just panicking as the institutions are panicking with the entrance of the digital realm in the literariness. So I will talk now a bit of the research context, because I'm a researcher, so I will talk about this research in a kind of academic way, but we'll talk about the children later. So what did we do? We went to this classroom of 12-year-old students. The school was situated in the outskirts of Barcelona, and we have to say that it had like a very adverse socio-economic reality, with more than 50-60% of immigrants in our population. Also, lots of people from the gypsy communities, that they tend to drop school very early when they are 9 or 10, or even before that. So it's important for you to know which was the demographic context of the school. Of course, they had like this low level of technology familiarization, no technology penetration at home at all. But what was really interesting in this school was that it was a school that they were involved in this 4-year project totally based on literary reading. They tried to create, they tried to convert the school into a literature reading community. So this classroom was involved in a long-term project. So they had this consolidated reading habit. Also, they were very used to discuss literature between them, and so they have like these discussion abilities and a very consolidated reading habit. So you can imagine how it's in this context, having kids with an average of 150 works read per year. So it's not that usual in Spain. It's not that usual in this kind of impoverished context. So for us was ideal, because we had this low-level technology context mixed up with kids that were very able to explicit their thoughts on new kinds of reading, new ways of reading, new kinds of literature. So what we did there was we introduced 5 iPads with 16 literary apps, also a bunch of ebooks and digitized picture books, because we wanted to know how they behave, not just with the literary apps, because they were so used to printed literature. We wanted to know how would they have used the device itself to explore other kinds of literature. So we introduced 5 iPads with 16. I will talk later about some of these apps. We introduced them in the classroom library, so they were able to freely explore those works as part of their reading routine. Their reading routine was very exceptional for the Spanish context, because nobody in Spanish school allows children to freely read. So they have this half an hour daily reading time, and also they have a weekly discussion on the works they were reading. So. And also this debating routine. So you can imagine how used they were to talk about literature. So that was kind of awesome. So let's talk about some of the works. This one is called The Unwanted Guest. This is very bookish because it's totally based on the text itself and the tale itself, but it's interesting because the multimedia layer also creates a necessary part of the meaning of the story. So you need to, exactly as in a picture book, you need to watch the multimedia layer to understand what's happening. But it's interesting because the cinematics go in a loop instead of, so you don't miss the action of the moving images because they go in a loop. So it's a very constrained environment where you can just enjoy the multimedia and also the text. It's based on a Jewish folktale, and it's a nice story. It's fine. The second work, this is, do you know The Heart in the Bottle, Oliver Jeffers' classic picture book? Well, the app, it's interesting because it's not just a remediation, because the interactive layer that the creators introduced in the app, it's meaningful. So they co-create the meaning of the story. It's not just this kind of hotspot that you activate and it's just fun. The interactivity within this work actually creates some kind of meaning for the text. It helps the text to express the story. This one it's a bit of it's a bit crappy, but this was the only hypertext we could find in Spanish, and we had to introduce different kinds of genres, as Scott Wood said yesterday, into the classroom. So you can see this basic branched narrative, this kind of choose your own adventure story. We'll talk later about how the quality of works could influence what the kids were saying about the works, but it's also interesting having different kinds of narration, different kind of narratologic proposals to get a feeling of how are dealing with this kind of non-linear narratives. This is Numberless. This is a very gamified story, also a very cinematic game that every chapter you have you have these ludic micro narratives where you have to solve a game in order to be able to continue the story. This one is it's called IPO. It's an enhanced version of Edgar Allan Poe's short stories. And I think that's about it, because the rest of them, it's not worth it to talk about them. So yeah, it's one of the problems with the nowadays corpus. It's not as good as it should be, in my opinion. But also, this was in 2013, and in the last 3 years, we have more and more quality apps in the App Store now. Also, there's the problem that we can only use iPads because the best works are there. So yeah, it's a bit of a jungle there. So how did we proceed? So we divided the students into strong and weak readers, based on our deep knowledge on what we knew about them. I have to say now that the colleague that that was my core researcher in this research was the teacher of this classroom. So she was doing her PhD on that classroom, on that literary reading project. So we knew a lot about this student. The thing is that weak and strong readers, when you get into this reading sociology environment, it's supposed to, a strong reader is supposed to be a reader that reads 50 works a year. So if we have used that categorization, all of our students would have been strong readers, and we don't like that quantitative approach. So we decided to describe them into strong and weak readers, but in a descriptive way. I'll explain it later. So we divided the students into weak and strong readers, and then we picked 2 students from each category with different attitude towards technology, meaning that from each category we picked a technophobe and a technophile. So I guess you are asking, you were thinking, what is a strong reader anyway? Okay, so we define strong readers, those with greater and more diverse reading experiences, also more confident, fluent, and with solid argumentative abilities and skills to explain their opinions on the work they were experiencing. So, as you can see, it's a very qualitative approach, and also, okay, I get it. What about the weak ones then? It's the opposite. Those with enclosed and less complex reading experiences, also less confident and with more difficulties explaining their point of view. It's important, the confidence thing, because they can just get blocked talking about literature if they don't feel confident on talking about literature. It involves a lot of things like having or not having the meta language to be able to talk about works that defines a good and a strong and a weak reader. There are a lot of factors that I don't have the time to explain now, but having this complex conception on what is a strong and a weak reader is essential to be able to develop their skills in a very complex way, but also organic way. So, with the sample ready, we did a couple of interviews. We interviewed them in pairs because it's easier for them to talk with the interviewer if they have like a peer to talk with. So we interview them in the strong readers and the weak readers separately, but in pairs. So the first interview, we created this script, structure, a script based on not in the constructive properties of electronic literature, but the first impressions on how the devices were affecting the dynamic of the whole reading literature habit that they had in the classroom. Also about their perception of the set of works as a whole, not just the works itself. And this happened after 1 month of familiarization with the iPads. The second one was in the 4th month of this research, and we focused specifically on the constructive properties that define electronic literature, meaning non-linearity, multimodality, interactivity, also the app or the work as a digital object. All right. So let's see how did we analyze the context? So after we had these semi-structured interviews, but as I said before, we didn't have any useful categories in reading sociology. And also there are no studies that analyze the electronic literature phenomena from a literary perspective. Everything is about literacy. And so we didn't have any kind of established categories to use them in our research, at least when that happened in 2013. So we decided to describe what we knew about our readers and compare it with what they were saying about them in these interviews. We know that there is a distance between what an interviewed is saying and what he or she is thinking, but well, this is we are aware of that. That's why I say that it's not a research that you can just generalize the results. Okay. It was also interesting that we were drifting around game studies papers, and so we could use, because some of the artistic proposals of electronic literature are close to what some games propose, so we could use some studies from the game studies and some typologies of gamers, like what is a socializer gamer, what is an explorer gamer. So we could use that kind of categories from the game studies to help us identify some attitudes and some profiles on these interviews. Okay, let's go to talk about the readers. I will go one by one, defining the readers as analogic readers first, and then talking about their digital profile. Okay, so this one is Antonio. I might use 2 names for each children because I know them so well that it's very difficult for me using the anonymous name that so if I call Antonio Lucas, it's sorry. Okay, Antonio is the guy on the left. So he came from a very impoverished situation. So he was a very insecure reader. He needed constantly to be reinforced on the things that he was saying about literature. He has a lot of problems expliciting what he thought about literature, and he was also very attached to realistic works with characters similar to himself, because he felt that kind of identification was what literature had to give to him. But always in a very, very plain and uncomplicated way, because any kind of complex fictional mechanism was way too much for him. He got overwhelmed with that. But he loved to see and read about characters like with the same situation as him. He was an insecure reader, but he always showed this curiosity and willing to experience different kind of literature. Like he always was going around the classroom library looking for different picture books and willing to share those works. So when we start analyzing him as a digital reader, what the first thing what we realize is that he had this huge technophile tendency. Probably because there's no way that Antonio could use an iPad or even a laptop or a computer at home. So giving him the chance to experience this digital reality into a classroom made him a huge technophile subject. He also showed an attitude prone to gamified reading, but for example, he never forget about his previous likings, meaning that, for example, the first work I talk about, this The Unwanted Guest, is a story about an old man and how the poverty colonized his house. The poverty is materialized into a giant figure that colonized his house. So he loved that work, and if you go through the scripts, you realize that he's always criticizing everything that is on the iPad that looks like a book, but the Unwanted Guest is definitely the most bookish app that we had in our selection. So being able to witness this coexistence of new tendencies and old habits between both realms, like the digital one and his analogic previous tendencies, it's awesome because, so apparently there's no an apocalypse when you introduce digital works in a classroom. The kids don't forget what they were and they start just playing games. They still get close to their previous attitudes. So he showed a total embracement also of elite affordances, and that's not that common as we see later. Let's read a quote of Antonio. I liked it a lot because you have to get into it. He's talking about the branched narrative, okay? This hypertext. You have to put yourself in the place of the character. You have to put yourself in their shoes, and you have to think up the ending. You have to decide which page I go to. When this quote, you can feel that he's embracing the artistic proposal of branched narrative. He is embracing his opportunity to choose the destiny of the character. And that is not that common when dealing with readers, and we'll see later with a very strong and liturgical reader that totally refuses to decide anything in a novel. We'll see it later. So he also felt that the digital corpus allowed him to explore. That's what he used to do in picture books, just explore everything. So these proposals, literary proposals, where you have to drift in the story and make choices and analyze every aspect of that work, made him very comfortable on this kind of this way of experience literature. So, and also he showed these exploratory desires within the whole corpus. Like, he was the only member of the classroom, because we interviewed just 4 of them, but every member of the classroom was able to experience the works, of course. And we have other researchers on the class as a whole. But he was the only one that read every single work that was on the iPad. So he showed these awesome exploratory desires. And also he was totally into this socializing aspect of the gamified proposals. So you can see that when you see a couple of kids that are sharing the reading of a picture book, it's easier to share the reading of a picture book like in pairs than it is a novel. So Antonio loved that kind of reading with somebody, talking about what he was reading at the moment of reading it. And with this kind of interactive apps and works, he was able to do that and enjoy the gamified aspect. So it was a good thing to feel that there's space for some tendencies that this kind of readers have in the digital scenario. Let's go for the second week reader. How am I going? Time, okay. We're talking about Celia now, the girl in the right of the picture. Celia was, whoa. Okay. Celia had good reading skills. Like, she had good reading speed, but her interpretation barely goes further than the literal. She always gets into the surface of meaning of literature. Any kind of complex literary mechanism or element create this kind of fog on her mind, like this cognitive noise, and she makes her very insecure. But the thing is that classroom is like it's like a club. It's like if you read, you belong to that club. So, and she loved that aspect of the reading community. So, because she was insecure, but she was a proud member of the reading community, what she tended to do was avoiding any kind of complexity. She just keeps going, however it takes. I mean, if I just have to read something without understanding, I will just read it to be able to keep up the level of the discussion and the sharing of literature that was happening in that community. So what was really interesting in Celia was the evolution in these 5 months. So she went from total rejection of any element of the electronic aesthetic to a considerable, because her meta-reflection abilities were not that developed, but to a considerable embracement of the digital affordances for the literary creation. Let's read a quote from the first interview. For me, it's been an experience. It is an experience having the iPads in the class, because we read digitally, but on paper as well. But what I like most is reading on paper, because it inspires me more. I feel happier with paper than with the iPad, because the iPad distracts me because they have effects, the sounds, and it is a bit more difficult for me. So why you love me, Celia? What's going on in here? Well, the thing is that if you mix up this reading community pride and you also put these interpretative difficulties that she used to have, and you also add the new complex digital mechanism that this set of works is adding to to the literary creation, of course, she's going to reject it because she is afraid of it. She had this blind rejection because she is afraid that the new skills that are required for this kind of text is going to leave her behind the community reader. But let's read a quote from the second interview. I like them more, horror books, and even more now in digital, with the background, because you're imagining yourself and you're alone and the background is there. Without the sound, yeah, it's okay. This and that happens, but so what? I don't get drawn into it. Okay, there's a lot to discuss about this quote, a lot. I mean, how affects the interpretation of a work when you materialize the environment that Edgar Allan Poe is creating with words. Okay, that's another kind of discussion. What we're discussing here is she overcome this fear, and she started to understand that maybe for her, this multimedia environment, that this enhanced version of Edgar Allan Poe's works were drawing her into the spirit of the works. He was not rejecting the multimedia, the sounds and the effects that he was saying in the first interview. She was embracing them because she wasn't yet able to have that feeling just with the text, because she's not that such a good reader. So talking about works, talking about how the works work in this digital scenario, and mediation and corpus selection, it's important to overcome these kind of fears and to avoid these kind of prejudices, however you pronounce that. So it wasn't just this multimedia embracement. She also was able to assess critically some of the works that we introduced in the classroom library. For example, we introduced one on purpose, one work called The Chest of Monsters, that is basically a bad picture book with bad interaction. So it's the story of a zombie where you just tap the zombie and the zombie farts. So if you are like 5, you laugh once, and if you are 4, you might laugh twice, but that's it. So she was able to understand the difference between what interaction means in that kind of outside hotspots, and with work like The Heart and the Bottle, where playing the whole interactive architecture, it flows with the idea of losing memories that Oliver Jeffers is creating on that picture book. So she was able to understand some of the mechanisms of this interactivity. So she wasn't just like, okay, I love this kind of horror multimedia books because I just get drawn into it and I won't read anymore. No, it was more complex than that. Let's go with the strong readers. Well, I love that little guy, Ivan. She's like the perfect reader, man. She was a strong reader in terms of everything. I mean, in terms of quantity, he reads a lot, and a lot more than I do. In terms of complexity of the words, he's able to enjoy. But the thing is that also he has this diverse taste, not confined into any specific genre, not even a specific way to approach literature. He was able to enjoy basic works, also complex works, big novels, complex novels, picture books, poetry, theater, anything. He just loved reading and loved fiction. And he was so secure, so confident on how a reader he was, that he was okay with enjoying like bad literature. Well, I enjoy this story in a different way that I enjoy reading The Secret Garden of Frances Burnett. It's a different kind of approach to literature, but I'm able to enjoy both of that sides of literature. He also was a very social reader, so he was essential to the dynamic of the community. He was always asking people, what are you reading? What do you want to read? How do you feel when you were reading this? And making the community grow. So he was essential to the community. So it was it was perfect for this research, because if you mixed his ability for diversified enjoyment and socialization of his literary experience, and you mix it with his strong capability of critical thought, because he was also able to talk about what he was feeling and thinking about literature, how you get this perfect reader able to enjoy diverse literary experiences depending on works' affordances, meaning that he is able to enjoy the zombies part as well as the complex proposal of any other electronic literature proposal. So that was interesting. Let's read a quote. Well, I like reading The Zombie with my classmate Alex because it's more like a fun story that I like to share with someone. But on the other hand, The Unwanted Guest, the poverty one, doesn't have so many effects, and the story isn't so funny. So I prefer read it myself individually, not with someone else. So he's able to not just enjoy, but to frame every reading situation. He knows when to read on his own. He knows when to stop reading. He knows when to share something with somebody. But he's always assessing critically and fluently the literary construction of works. This was just an example, but he was talking about the fictional value of interactivity in the works. Also, he was pissed off when the multimedia layer was unbalanced with the literary proposal, like talking about, well, I'm reading this slow tempo novel, digital novel, and we have this music in the background that is like this jazz quartet or whatever. It doesn't match. So he was like very passionate and pissed off about this kind of stuff. But he was actually analyzing the multimedia proposal of this work. He was saying, if you're putting music in the background into a work, just do it properly. Don't just buy this free music from the internet and just place it there. Just make a whole construction, a multimedia construction of a work if that's what you want to do. I love this guy. But probably this fourth reader is the most interesting. She's Adriana. She's a very strong, passionate, definitely militant reader with a solid reading habit. We're talking about a girl that read The Secret Garden with 8-year-old, and she didn't just read it. She enjoyed it, and she was able to talk about the lack of action in the work and everything. I mean, she's amazing. She has an outstanding depth of analysis and a huge ability to argue and discuss about his literary views. He's like this, like people from the TV talking about a lot of stuff, and he has this calm to talk and discuss and even to impose his views sometimes because he's very good discussing. But he's a canon-like reader that refuses lesser literature. He's this kind of reader that just loves reading like the big literature, the classics, and that's it. And she had 11 years old. So when you analyze her as a digital reader, we have this romantic reader, liturgical reader, attached to tradition. For her, reading was reading on the sofa with a thick novel and alone. That's it. That's what reading means for Adriana. Let's read a quote. Well, I don't know. Maybe for some people, we already have the habit of reading and we've got the enthusiasm, and people that maybe didn't have that would be more keen to read because they are reading on an iPad, right? But I don't find it the same as a real reading. Mind the words, real reading. For me, reading is reading a book. Sitting down and reading a real book, a paper book. So you can also see this kind of patronizing discourse, saying that maybe for other people that don't know what reading is, but I do. I know what reading is. It's reading a real book, a paper book. So, well, this attitude is interesting because what is creating into her mind is making her unable to understand the fictional proposals of Illet. It's not just that I mean, that's okay, but he's not able to enjoy a literary proposal, and that's the key of the whole thing. Let's read another quote. I don't know. He's talking about the branched narrative now. I don't know. They do it so that you understand, well, if you want this ending, well, fine, here it is. But I got the feeling that there was a story, a normal story, that you couldn't choose. And then they added that other endings that the reader might like better, but those endings were shorter and more limited, and then you get away a bit from the main story. So what I was trying to do was not get it wrong and to follow the central story all the time. Oh, this is not about it. I mean, you're not getting it, Adriana. This is not the key thing on branched narrative. There's no central story. You don't get wrong in a branched narrative. You just make choices. So this is the problem with this kind of mentality, that they are not able to understand what the literary proposal of this kind of words. So it is a pity, it's a shame that this kind of powerful, very strong readers, they just refuse to get into this flow of choosing and getting involved in different ways. So we can see that perceptive limitation of electronic poetics opposed not just to Ivan, the strong reader, but also Antonio. Antonio was supposed to be like a very weak reader, but he was embracing this kind of reading. He was enjoying and understanding, because you can perceive the difference of ability to express from Adriana to Antonio. But if you make the highlights, Antonio is understanding what is branching narrative about. It's about exploring. It's about deciding. It's about getting in the feet of a character. It's about a lot of stuff that Adriana doesn't realize. She just wants to get the good story, the longest one. So her literary reading skills were very attached to this linear tradition, just getting from the beginning to the end, and that's it. And any kind of different proposal was not for her. Okay, so some conclusions and follow-up cues, and then we can talk about whatever you want. First of all, traditional meta-literary reflective abilities do transfer to the new realm of kids' ILET, meaning that we felt that what they were as paper readers have some reflection on the digital scenario. So the strong and reflective readers were able to reflect upon this kind of text. They just don't forget about what they were experiencing in literature. They just apply it in a different way that to the digital realm. But what about the other way around? I was kind of worried about, can Antonio transfer this new confidence built upon the digitality to become a better paper reader and being able to enjoy better picture books and go further than that? That needs to be researched from now on. Also, ILET engages both strong and weak readers in different ways than the traditional. So what is a strong electronic reader then? How do we define a strong electronic literature reader? And we need to work on that. We need to make a list of what electronic literature works propose, and start. It's a fresh start. We have to understand what this kind of exhaustive reading means, like going to every ending in a branched narrative, or taking every path on a branched narrative, or explore the whole fictional world created. Do you know David Weisner app, Spot? Do you know David Weisner, the picture book illustrator of Tuesday and Mr. Wiggles? Help me with the names in Finnish. No? Okay, come on. So he has this awesome app. I can show you later if you want. He has this awesome app that instead of building a narrative, he built a whole world, and you just navigate it through pinching. So you just zoom in and zoom in and zoom in, and you just can't stop zooming in. So there are like 5 inner worlds in this macro fictional world, and you just navigate it. But you realize that within these different worlds, there are the same characters in all of them. So there are some kind of narrative there, but you have to find it. You have to understand it. There's no linearity, there's no defined temporality, but there's something there similar to narrative. So these kind of new abilities, which kind of readers are going to be able to enjoy them and to be able to develop? The gamers, the previous gamers, because they are used to explore; the picture book readers, because they're very used to contemplate the graphic aspect of a work; the novel readers, because they are used to long exposure to fiction. It's very complex, but we have to work on that. And also mediation. It's very important for us, teachers, researchers, and mediators of literature, to go with students. I mean, I don't believe in this. I mean, I believe in the concept of a digital native, because it is a sociological concept. If you've born in a digitalized environment, you're a native. But you don't born with a set of skills because you were born in the 95. That's not true. I mean, you are, I don't know how to explain it, but you are conditioned because of your reality, but it also has to be trained. There are a lot of reading skills that need to be approached by the educational institutions, and we as mediators and facilitators, librarians, teachers, experts, whatever that means, we have to understand this new digital corpus, understand it, and do the same thing that we've been doing for ages with print literature. We have to talk about those works and make them part of the routine if you want them to develop this new set of skills. So, well, this is the book that we've just probably it was a year ago and Paula has reviewed in the magazine that you have. Yeah, in that one. So well, we're very proud of this one because it's the first monograph on English on digital literature for children, and it covers like a lot of aspects of this thing, like as the subtitle says, text, readers, educational practices. There's also like a theoretical approach on what exactly is digital literature for children. And yeah, well, I think it's a good one, but it's bad for me to say because I kind of wrote it. So and also, well, it's in Spanish, but I have the feeling that one of the things that we've been talking about these 2 days is that it's very difficult to find electronic literature, like good electronic literature. And we have this in our website. I don't have you can ask me later. We've been reviewing good examples of electronic literature for 2 years. It's in Spanish, but at least you can have the name of the works, and you can use Google Translate or whatever. We hope to translate it into English in the future because we need visibility. So in our website, it's called GRETEL.cat, Gretel as in Hansel and Gretel, and .cat, cat as in Catalonia. So you can go there and check the works that we've been reviewing for these past 2 years. It's been a huge effort. We've read more than 400 works and selecting just the best that really understand what a digital media is and how it can be applied into the literary creation. So thank you very much for your patience, and I hope you enjoyed the talk, and we can have questions now or whatever, if that's fine. Yeah.
Is there any questions? Because I have one, but if somebody has also some, you can do it first. I was wondering, is there any difference between girls and boys as e-readers?
That's a tricky one, man, because there are so many factors involved in that thing, like society itself. So, well, because if we analyze the sample, it's not about gender, it's about socioeconomic background. I mean, Adriana was the more liturgical reader, but she came from a very white middle class family, very used to culture, very intellectual family from the upper class in Catalonia. So that's definitely part of her background. But also, if you analyze some tendencies on reading sociology, it is true that girls usually go, they tend to be more like this kind of reader, like solitary readers, but that's not because they are girls, that's because of how society affects to girls. So at least is my view on that. And there are no enough conclusions on this kind of evaluation on how gender affects this kind of thing without the patriarchy and that kind of perspective. So it is true that boys tend to play and read together, but what's the reason of that? That's a very complex answer. I'm not able to answer that without being, I don't know, superficial.
but you're saying that basically e-reading is more social.
Yeah, well, some aspects of electronic literary proposals are they are gamified. Some of them, so that aspect of electronic literature reading, it's more socializing, but also some kind of picture books have this kind of proposal. So, well, if you ask Rainer to lend you Afternoon, a story, you'll see that there's nothing. You just have to sit and read. I mean, you don't share that with somebody because it's very complex. Also, for example, being able to continue the flow of a set of choices, it's a very personal thing. You have to know where you are, where you have been. So that kind of reading is not that gamified. It's not that shareable. But there are obviously some gamified proposals. For example, A Duck Has an Adventure is an iconic hypertext where you just drift in this branched narrative, but it has no text. You just have icons, and you just go with it very, very, very fast. So you can experience the branching narrative and the choices in a very quick way. So it's very fun to read and play with somebody, the same way that I used to play Monkey Island or Day of the Tentacle with somebody, because you were sharing the story and the puzzles and whatever. Did I respond to you?
Yeah. my intuition is that it's you tend to open some sort of if you have those ebook application, it's more fun to do it with someone, and especially when that someone knows it, so you can just say that show it to me. I want to see. And then you are doing it together, and it's more easy. I don't know. It works for me that way anyway.
Yeah, but the thing is that there are a lot of electronic proposals that are very intimate and personal and very deep reading kind of reading, like all the postmodern stuff that has been going around for ages. That is not. Also, there are like this ludic approach because postmodernity and that it's been a lot of about ludicity in the literary, but also there's these complex structures and ways of non-linearity that requires you to be full on in the text on your own, and you don't have time to talk about it. No, just leave me alone. I'm in the middle of something here. So there are both things, but also it is true that in some forms of this electronic literature, there's this kind of let's play this text, and that's awesome to share with somebody.
And even more, it's like I want to show you something.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
but that at that moment is when probably the gender thing would have affect the results, because some of the skills, the attitudes toward sharing something that they have been developed in gaming, you can use it in this kind of text. And at least in Spain, the gamers are mostly boys. So probably, yeah, you can use that kind of ability to be able to share some kind of reading.
When you were discussing with the kids there, did they compare these e-lit works to games or other applications they are familiar with, or did they consider these as strange, novel things altogether?
Well, the first thing that we asked them was that what did you think we were going to show you? Like, what did you think electronic literature was? And they thought that they were just ebooks, like digitalized literature. So when they start realizing that we weren't talking about ebooks, they were starting to relate these works with something else. But most of them, they just were amazed because they haven't imagined what kind of literary proposal was this electronic literature. Especially Adriana, the liturgical reader, was associating this kind of literature to games. The rest of them were just, we're just like, no, this is just something else. That was the quote, it's something else. And it's interesting,
I also thought that I loved the profiles. They were really good. But I think I was all of them. I really related to every one of them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting aspects of this research. I mean, they are not profiles. They are just tendencies materialized into little people. You know, so what this research is about asking questions as a researchers. What kind of aspects we have to research? Where these interviews were weak and weren't able to understand better these readers. What kind of attitudes are they pointing at? And we have to research those signs of those.
Sorry, I just. All right.
Okay. Can you repeat how old the kids were?
11 and 12-year-old. Okay. Yeah, they were involved in this project since they were 8. So they've been 4 years in the project, the literary reading project, not the digital one. They spend 6 months with the iPads in the classroom library.
So how are they now? Do you still know them?
Yeah, I know them. Well, they're struggling through public high schools in Spain because it's our educational institution is a bit messed up. So they've been trying to continue this reading habit. My colleague, the teacher, it's constantly involved in with them and trying to continue the community that was created during these 4 years out of her teaching duties and creating this kind of book club in their free time. But it's very difficult because the educational institution in Spain is struggling to deal with the literary aspect. It's very messed up in that. So some of them, they continue reading, some of them just drop the whole thing, and that's a pity.
So what is the future then?
For them?
Yeah, and for the youth as a whole?
Well, the future for you mean for the young people in Spain?
Yeah. If your education, if you have.
Well, that's I don't know, man.
Okay.
I don't even want to know because I don't know what's my future even, and I'm a successful person in Spain. So everybody's leaving Spain. So I guess that they have to. I don't know. If we don't change our system, we are going to collapse because it's not. We don't have an effective educational institution in terms of being able to empower our people. So at some point it's going to collapse.
We're going to have an ending discussion today about digital literature and the school system.
Okay.
So in here in Finland, it's we have this digiloikka, which is we have jumped into the digital age, and it may sort of save our souls. Well, anyway, it can offer solutions.
Yeah, well, but
to many problems.
the Finland in Educational Institute is not. It's playing in another league. I mean, we just watch you guys and try to follow you, but it's a different league. I mean, you're playing in the major league, and we are just struggling with everyday things. I started my research career doing this interesting research on. Back in 2010 in Spain, we introduced technology into every classroom in the public schools, but with no training for the teachers. So I went there to the classrooms and analyzed what was going on in the literary education. And we have these teachers that didn't know how to create readers beforehand, and now they had to deal with a system that they don't understand, with the skills that they don't have, and also with 25 computers and 25 kids. So it was a total collapse. The project stopped because it made no sense for the institution to buy laptops if the teachers don't know how to use it. I mean, I witnessed a class where the teacher spent like 25 minutes just calibrating the projector, and when she finally managed to do it, she just moved the screen. So it was like, you don't get the tools you have. It was very frustrating. A very frustrating research. Also, I just got depressed and left to Australia for 6 months after that. That's true.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.